Okay, let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about what it actually means to be an SRE. If you think that SRE is just another DevOps role with a lot of firefighting, troubleshooting, and debugging issues all day, being on call 24/7, then this video is just for you. I've been a production engineer or a site reliability engineer at a FANG company for the last 3 years. And that has taught me a lot about, firefighting issues, being on call, and debugging and keeping really, really large systems alive. So in this video, I'm going to break down what it actually means to be an SRE versus what it's not. So let's get straight into it. The first myth that everyone believes is that SRE is just ops with a fancy title. Let me provide a bit of history to you about what a sysadmin used to do back in the 1900s. Back in the 1900s, and as the dot-com bubble evolved, there were a lot of sysadministration roles, right? For example, you had operators that used to deal with debugging of issues. They used to set up the database. They used to copy data from one place, from one drive to the other drive. They used to handle all of the backups. They used to deploy code, all of that good stuff, right? Now, the systems administrator role was kind of defined for this exact reason. It generally helped teams in production to ship faster. So all of the stuff that went on behind the scenes that did not involve writing code was handled by these sysadmins, right? Now this as sysadmin role existed for a long time in the industry. But as this role started to kind of like evolve, it morphed into a role called as a site reliability engineer, right? A site reliability engineer is someone that kind of deals with everything that involves in shipping a system or shipping code at a very fast rate. A site reliability engineer is generally a person who's involved with taking care of a system, like to be able to allow the developers to move faster. They are the ones that ensure that whatever product you're shipping is kind of like in a much better place to be scaled. It needs to be reliable. It needs to have the right on-call presence. It needs to have all of these moving parts so that the product that you're actually like shipping is in a very, very good state. This is the exact reason why SREs is not just a sysadmin role with a fancy title. It involves much, much, much more than just sysadministration stuff. Site reliability engineers today are involved in a lot of coding operations as well. They do not just sit back and do all of these data administration roles or backing up of data or shipping of code. Because the automated systems have become so good, the sysadministrator role has kind of evolved into what we see today. It has kind of morphed into this site reliability engineering role that you are all familiar with, or a DevOps role that you're all familiar with. So it's not just an ops role with a very fancy title. The second misconception that people have is that as an SRE, you are always on call, right? People always think that as an SRE, you're going to be on call perpetually, like 24/7. But that's not the case. Since as you evolve into roles at different FANG companies or any company that has an SRE role, you'll find out that there are these SRE teams are just not one person teams. They are generally like 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, or they could be divided into smaller parts, taking care of different parts of the system, right? Now, as the on-call rotation evolves, it can, involve you being on call for a week, for 3 days, for 4 days, and this on-call rotation is defined by, the kind of service that you're dealing with. So this is not true that every site reliability engineer is on call 24/7. They could be on call for different parts of the system at different times, right? And that does not mean being on call 24/7 and fighting fires all over the place. So that's a myth, being on call 24/7 as a site reliability engineer, and that being the only responsibility that you do is a big myth. The third myth that we usually see for a site reliability engineer is that they are well versed in all of these different stacks like Kubernetes, GitHub, Prometheus, Grafana, etc. right from the get-go. But that's not true. As you see the site reliability engineering role evolve from like as it crossed the intersection from being a sysadmin to what it is now, the tools that I just mentioned became the de facto tools for observability and monitoring. They became very famous among developers, right? The reason they become famous is because they usually are these open source tools that everyone contributes to, and since they are contributed by everyone, a lot of companies start to adopt these open source tools and they become really famous in the industry. You are not necessarily required to know all of these tools right from the get-go. You can come in as a junior SRE, joining any company and learn all of these tools on the spot. Like you could generally go through any course on YouTube, or you could just play around with different functions and then stumble your way upon figuring out how to use these tools. They are not that complicated. So if anyone tells you that you need to know all of these observability tools and monitoring tools right from the get-go, they're lying. Usually when a software developer gets onboarded to a team, the team generally teaches them about all of these tools. They usually have an onboarding period, etc., etc. So you're given a good enough ramp up time to go from a zero to actually being proficient in these tools. So you don't have to worry about be a know-it-all right at the start. You can start to slowly pick up these tools and get good and familiar with them as you make your way through the industry. So if anyone tells you that you need to be a master of all, they're completely lying. I'm going to give you the actual definition of what I think a site reliability engineer is. Now, this definition is not picked up from any textbook. It's not picked up from ChatGPT or Google. It's my own personal definition. So I think that a site reliability engineer is actually a software engineer, but who knows much more about the systems that he's working with. He has a deeper understanding of how operating systems interact, the different components of operating systems, SLIs, SLOs, observability, monitoring, and a little bit of how all of these components connect in shipping a real world system. I think that there are engineers that value reliability, efficiency, and the speed at which a product is getting shipped or scaled. An engineer that cares about all of these things and allows the team surrounding him to move faster is what I think a site reliability engineer is. Now that entire definition could be something that is extremely long. It could be something that you might come to me and say, hey, Sladen, you gave like a 4-line definition of what an SRE is. That didn't really give me a clear idea. But if you really want to understand what an SRE is, all you need to do is just go to the thousands of job roles that are open, read the descriptions for yourself. You'll really start to find overlapping areas of infrastructure. You start to find overlapping areas of keywords. Like you'll start to see the words like monitoring, observability, Kubernetes, infrastructure. The reason that these words kind of overlap is they all demand the same thing from a particular role or a particular engineer. In this case, site reliability engineers. They demand that the infrastructure that they're building, or they demand that the product that they're building can be scaled up and can also, be reliable, efficient, and can consume or cost save for the company. That's why companies usually hire site reliability engineers. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Now that I've explained to you what a site reliability engineer is in my own words, what are the 3 myths that people believe site reliability engineers do or are held to, let's move on to why I think site reliability engineering is such an important role going into the future. So I spent the last couple of hours looking at various job portals. I spent looking at OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, Google, JP Morgan Chase, and so on and so forth. And the one thing that I found common is that all of these companies hire site reliability engineers. And they are among the highest paid engineers in the industry. So if you look, and usually people have another myth that I might not have covered earlier, is that people believe that site reliability engineers are not paid as much as software engineers, which is one of the biggest myths that you'll find out there. Usually site reliability engineers are paid as much, if not more, to software engineers. In some cases, senior site reliability engineers are even paid more heavily than software engineers. And the biggest problem facing the industry right now is that not a lot of site reliability engineers actually exist in the industry. So you'll find a real difficulty for some of the top companies to be hiring site reliability engineers. The job market is flooded with a lot of software engineers, but the demand of the experience for site reliability engineering is extremely, extremely high. And that's why they're also paid heavily. So in this video, I wanted to actually explain to you what site reliability engineering means, what are the real myths, why it's important. Now, let's get into the last part of the video. The last part of the video is what are the different roles and responsibilities of a site reliability engineer. Let's get straight into some of those. Okay, so let's get into what a site reliability engineer actually does. So usually their work is divided into 3 different parts. Usually a site reliability engineer works on proactive work, reactive work, and collaborative work. So in terms of being proactive, the proactive work that site reliability engineers do involves writing automated tests, automated pipelines, cleaning up code that is consuming a lot of resources, and all of this stuff, right? We generally work with the teams and develop, automations that can, alert the developers whenever something goes wrong. 10 tests failing. The alerts are like, hey, software developer, can you come and take a look at this? So this is a lot of the proactive work that's involved. We define the SLIs, SLOs, we define the objectives, we define when a system's uptime can be affected during a certain outage. We're responsible for bringing it back up, etc., etc. So this is the kind of proactive work that we are involved in. This is the kind of work that when we're launching a product or when a product is supposed to, not going through extremely heavy development cycles, we do all of this proactive work to ensure that the product is ready to go online. Now let's talk about some of the reactive work that we do. Now, site reliability engineers deal with a lot of reactive work. Since we are responsible for a system in production, we spend a lot of time firefighting, as you might have realized. Generally, when a system goes down, we are responsible for debugging, bringing it back up, troubleshooting, working with the software development teams to find out what went wrong in the development cycle, what went wrong in the deployment cycle. How did we catch the error? We're also responsible for doing reactive work like bringing teams together to be able to firefight a huge outage. Like, for example, sometimes it could take down multiple systems. So we're involved in that efforts as well. So site reliability engineers are actually involved in a lot of reactive efforts as well when the entire system goes down or multiple parts of the system break together. The third part that we're involved in is usually collaborative work. So you will find teams at different FAANG companies that collaborate with different product teams. So you'll have like services which have their own site reliability engineering teams, or we also collaborate with product managers, we could collaborate with software developers, we could collaborate with directors, etc., to be able to allow a system to thrive or to be able to define what an uptime looks like for an extremely critical service. What does it look like for the system to go down? Do we have any backups? How do we bring it back online, etc.? So these are the three pillars of a site reliability engineer, and I'll go into depth in more of my future videos, but this is what majority of our work for a site reliability engineer looks like. Okay, we went a lot into all of these different things. And in the next video, I'm going to be talking to you about what are my plans for the channel. Like, there is not a lot of content about site reliability engineering and what it means to be a really good site reliability engineer. So in the next video, let's dive deep into what my plans are for this channel, right? I want to be able to explore site reliability engineering in depth, what it means to actually be a site reliability engineer, and how can we learn and build the foundations required to be a really, really good engineer. Because it's not just always about the code. Sometimes it's about how efficient, because sometimes it's not just about the code. Sometimes it's about the systems that we build, how efficient they are, how effective they are, and how reliable they are. That's it from this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.